Welcome to Clover Cure. In this video, we will imagine an organ no larger than your hand working tirelessly behind your stomach, quietly orchestrating two miracles every moment you are alive. This modest structure, the pancreas, leaks potent enzymes into your small intestine, so steak becomes amino acids, salad oil turns into absorbable fatty acids, and oats break down into glucose your muscles can burn. At the very same time, it pulses insulin and glucagon into your bloodstream, guiding that glucose away from peaks that leave you jittery and valleys that make you faint. When the pancreas is healthy, you feel steady, clear-headed, and comfortably full after meals. When it is inflamed or exhausted, you may endure knife, like abdominal pain, nausea, greasy stools, or the relentless thirst of diabetes. In many cases, the difference between those two fates depends on what lands on your plate and in your glass day after day. Because the pancreas straddles both ends of digestion, chemical breakdown, and hormonal regulation, it is exquisitely sensitive to dietary excess. A balanced meal of leafy greens, lean protein, and slow-burning carbohydrates asks the gland to perform the graceful routine it evolved for. A barrage of refined sugar, oxidized fat, and preservative-laden additives forces it to sprint, stumble, and swell. Repeat that pattern at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the tiny ducts that carry enzymes inflame, scar tissue forms, and insulin-making beta cells burn out. Painful bouts of pancreatitis, blood sugar chaos, and, over decades, even pancreatic cancer can follow. Of all the edible threats out there, 5 common categories impose the steepest toll, and fortunately, each can be dialed down without surrendering the joy of eating. Number 1. Sugary beverages. Picture a frosty 20-ounce cola, roughly 65 grams of added sugar, about 17 teaspoons, swallowed in under 5 minutes. Because the liquid contains no fiber, fat, or protein to slow absorption, glucose floods your bloodstream like a flash tide. The pancreas reacts with an emergency burst of insulin to corral the spike. But that heroic response is costly. Beta cells must crank production to maximum, a task they can manage occasionally, but not hour after hour. Researchers following adults who drink 1 or more sugar-sweetened beverages daily find a markedly higher risk of type 2 diabetes, largely because pancreatic cells eventually tire and die. The problem is not just soda. Sweet teas, sports drinks, energy shots, and dessert-style coffees often hide sugar totals equal to or greater than cola. And pure fruit juice, stripped of its natural fiber, slams fructose into the bloodstream almost as fast. Over months, the organ that should be regulating blood sugar becomes its victim, and a simple craving for fizz turns into a metabolic trap. Number 2. Processed meats. If liquid sugar is the stealth attacker, these act as a slow, corrosive poison. Bacon, hot dogs, pepperoni, salami, and deli slices may feel nostalgic and convenient, yet their ingredient panels read like a chemistry set. Sodium nitrite keeps meat rosy but converts in the intestine to nitrosamines, molecules so mutagenic that scientists use them to induce tumors in laboratory animals. Sodium itself stiffens blood vessels, denying oxygen to abdominal organs. Heme iron, concentrated in red meat, triggers free radical storms that slice through cellular DNA, while the saturated fat in many cured products demands torrents of pancreatic lipase to break down. Epidemiological studies link habitual processed meat consumption to higher rates of pancreatic, as well as colorectal cancer, and people who eat bacon or sausage more than 5 times a week face significantly greater odds of chronic pancreatitis. The harm is cumulative, creeping in over countless breakfasts and late-night snacks. Number 3. Refined carbohydrates and pastries. This offender hides in the glass cases of every bakery. Milling strips wheat of its fiber-rich bran and nutrient-dense germ, leaving a starchy endosperm that behaves almost identically to pure glucose once digested. 2 slices of white toast drive blood sugar upward as sharply as many candy bars, and the pancreas must hurl a rapid insulin response to prevent cellular damage. Trouble arrives 90 minutes later when levels crash and hunger roars back, inciting another trip to the breadbasket. Pastries intensify the injury by fusing simple starch with trans fats, partially hydrogenated oils that rigidify cell membranes, making insulin receptors sluggish. To compensate, the pancreas pumps out even more insulin, working harder for diminishing returns. Laboratory studies show that diets high in refined grains elevate circulating C-reactive protein, a systemic marker of inflammation that does not spare pancreatic tissue. Over years, the cycle of spike and crash gradually erodes the organ's capacity to keep glucose in check. Number 4. Deep-fried foods. These culprits announce themselves with an aroma that can perfume half a city block, yet their chemistry is far less appetizing. Frying plunges potatoes, chicken, onions, and even candy bars into vats of industrial seed oil heated far above their smoke points and reheated dozens of times. Each cycle shatters fatty acid chains, spawning aldehydes, acrylamide, and other lipid oxidation products that researchers label profoundly pro-inflammatory. To dismantle those oxidized fats, your pancreas must release torrents of lipase, but the very byproducts being digested then travel via the bloodstream back to the gland, embedding in already stressed tissue. People who consume fried foods 4 or more times a week face a sharply higher risk of type 2 diabetes and obesity, both conditions that magnify pancreatitis risk. And large cohort studies link weekly fried chicken or fried fish meals to elevated pancreatic cancer mortality. The crackle you crave comes at the price of chemical warfare deep inside your abdomen. Number 5. Excessive alcohol. This hazard towers above all others, the single most destructive everyday substance for pancreatic health. While a solitary glass of dry wine with dinner can fit comfortably into a balanced diet, beyond 1 drink a day for women and 2 for men, the calculus tilts steeply toward harm. Ethanol is converted first into acetaldehyde, a reactive molecule capable of cross-linking proteins and mutating DNA within pancreatic tissue. That injury targets acinar cells, the very factories that produce digestive enzymes. Alcohol also thickens pancreatic secretions, building sludge that blocks tiny ducts. Picture a garden hose filling with wet cement, until pressure sparks an attack of acute pancreatitis. Chronic heavy drinkers account for roughly 70% of pancreatitis cases worldwide, and repeated inflammation often evolves into scar-laden chronic pancreatitis, crippling both enzyme output and insulin release. Even weekend binges matter. A single night of heavy drinking combined with a fatty meal can unleash the sudden, hospital-level pain of an inflamed pancreas by morning. Hearing these 5 threats in succession: sugary beverages, processed meats, refined pastries, deep-fried entrees, and excess alcohol, may sound like a declaration of war on every comfort food that brightens a weekend. Yet the message is not prohibition, it is proportion. The pancreas is remarkably forgiving when granted time to recover. A milkshake after a mountain hike or a craft beer at a wedding usually disappears into metabolic history without leaving a scar. Trouble arises when indulgence becomes routine: soda with lunch daily, bacon at 3 breakfasts a week, pizza Friday and fries Saturday, cocktails both nights. Frequency, portion size, and pairing determine whether harmless pleasure becomes cumulative harm. The beauty of dietary change is that small, consistent swaps yield outsized dividends. Replace 1 daily soda with sparkling water squeezed with lime, and you erase nearly 24 kilograms of added sugar a year, calming the insulin roller coaster that leaves so many people foggy by mid-afternoon. Trade 2 processed meat breakfasts each week for scrambled eggs folded with spinach and tomato to have nitrate exposure and trim saturated fat. Roast potato wedges in olive oil and rosemary instead of ordering drive-through fries. The texture remains satisfying, while oxidized fat intake plummets. Opt for chewy whole grain sourdough over pillowy white bread, and the extra fiber slows glucose absorption, giving the pancreas breathing room. Choose a single glass of dry red wine and sip it slowly rather than chasing multiple sugary cocktails. Public health headlines often spotlight heart disease and obesity, yet the pancreas lurks behind both. Acute pancreatitis hospitalizes nearly 300,000 Americans every year. Chronic pancreatitis can progress to malabsorption, unrelenting pain, and lifelong enzyme supplements. Pancreatic cancer remains one of the deadliest malignancies precisely because its early signs masquerade as indigestion. With this in mind, imagine tomorrow's menu. Breakfast becomes overnight oats crowned with blueberries, chia seeds, and a drizzle of almond butter, washed down with unsweetened green tea. Lunch transforms into a grilled salmon salad brightened by lemon vinaigrette and a handful of walnuts. Dinner showcases herb-roasted chicken thighs beside air-fried sweet potato wedges dusted with turmeric and black pepper. Throughout the day, sparkling water infused with ginger stands in for syrupy sodas, and a single glass of ruby red wine savored with friends completes the evening. Nothing about that lineup feels like deprivation, yet your pancreas experiences it as a vacation. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with friends and family who might benefit from this vital information. Your engagement helps us create more valuable content for you.